Hey guys, welcome back. It's Kayla Crawley with Fearless Woman. If you're just tuning in, this is our very first episode, and we are going to talk about what fearless means. Um, as I talked about in my intro, this has been something that I really wanted to talk about and just get off my chest, and mainly just try to help another woman overcome obstacles or whatever she may be facing in her life. Um, as I've stated before, this isn't for everybody. This isn't something that, everybody may get something out of, but if that one person does, then I know that I was successful in doing this. So I just ask y'all bear with me as we go through a couple of my life stories and just how I got to where I am today. So, what exactly is fearless? For me, fearless is exactly how it sounds. Um, in this podcast, we'll be talking about how we as people, or me myself, I have learned how to not fear things, but overcome. So it's not necessarily me conquering things or me being great at anything, but more so me just overcoming the obstacles that have been thrown at me um, in life. Just a little bit of background for me, you guys. For those of you that don't know me, I came from a very strict upbringing. My parents were older, and so they were tough. They were tough, and at this point in my life, I wouldn't have it any other way. But there were a lot of times that I found myself trying to be perfect, and in that light, it came with a lot of different obstacles, a lot of different trying to find the right words, challenges that I had to face throughout life. And with those challenges, I had to learn my self worth. And when I say my self worth, that means me being good enough. That means me, knowing how to do things, if that makes sense to you guys. Um, I had to recognize that I would not always be able to appease everyone. And in my life, appeasing everyone meant my family at the time. I was deemed as the responsible one, the one who knew how, knew how to take care of business, knew how to do everything. Um, and with that came a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. So today, that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about. Just how I overcame my mind in that moment, as well as overcoming knowing that I didn't have to please everyone. So for me, the fear of not being perfect. So the topic today is the fear of not being perfect. So we're just gonna jump right into it, guys. So as I was saying before, with my upbringing, if you don't know me, I was what some people will call a little country bumpkin. I showed cattle. We had a farm. Like we had everything. Like the first thing I drove was a backhoe and a tractor. Like that was my life. But with that came a lot of expectations. A lot of expectations over my life. And those expectations, a lot of the times I didn't feel like I was able to meet. And that was tough. That was very tough for me. So, in those moments, being 10 and 11, I didn't understand. I didn't understand at the time what I was trying to do or who I was trying to please. I just knew that when I went out there, I had to be the best. There was never a moment where it was okay for me to be less than. And that was tough. That was very tough being a young person that in that moment I felt like I had to grow up very fast. Because if I didn't grow up, then I wasn't able to, I don't know, necessarily want to say conquer what was in front of me, but I wasn't able to be the best. And so with that, I I had a resentment. I had a resentment for my parents. I had a resentment for the people around me because I felt like I wasn't able to be a kid. I felt like I wasn't able to be normal. All my friends were going out, going to the movies, they were going to parties, they were doing all kinds of stuff. And here I was like in the barn until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night working some cows. Like nobody wants to do that. That is not normal, guys. And well, let me say in my eyes at that point in my life, that was not normal. But I found myself at the age of 17 or 18, getting ready to go to college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was contemplating because I was like, ag is all I know, showing cattle is all I know. What am I supposed to do with my life? You know, and I think the biggest question for me was what will make my parents proud? You know, what will make them satisfied with what I'm doing with my life? I know, crazy question, right? What will make them satisfied instead of what will make me satisfied? But that was a question I had in my mind a lot when I did things is what would appease other people? Never what made me happy or what can I do to make myself better? And so long story short, I went off to college. I majored in a disciplinary agriculture. Big surprise. Wanted to be an ag teacher. Big surprise. And I found myself within the first year of college depressed. I was just like, I don't think this is for me. I found myself wanting to be rebellious and not want to finish school and just not be a part of anything anymore because I got to a point where I was just like, I'm an adult. I'm grown now. Why am I still trying to please other people instead of doing something that I'm happy with? And so, fast forward a little bit. I went to college in 2011. 2012 went by, changed my major to ag business. 2013 went by, changed my major to just interdisciplinary education. 2014, I was still doing the education route. And January of 2015, never forget it. I got a call from my brother telling me that my dad had stage 4 cancer. Boom. Like, boom. My mind exploded. There were so many thoughts going through my mind, like, oh my God, like you've been in college since 2011. You haven't graduated yet. He won't be able to see you graduate. You haven't made him proud yet. You haven't done any of these things. And here he is, with stage 4 cancer. You don't, mind you, I haven't talked to any doctors. I don't know if he's able to be healed. Like I don't know any of this, but this is me being as transparent as I can with you guys. Like that's what was running through my mind. Like I automatically thought death. And nobody could tell me any different. I had been married for 2 years. I went home and I told my husband. And he was like, "Hey, like, okay, calm down. Calm down. We're gonna get through this. We're going to figure this out. Like, just bear with me here until I can call your mom and figure out what's going on." So we called my mom, and being as strong as she possibly could, explained to me everything. Explained to me where the cancer was in his body, how the doctors were looking at it, how we're going to go through chemo. If chemo doesn't work, how we're going through radiation. And it's to the point to where surgery won't work, so they won't be able to remove anything. And so my mind is just like, oh, God, like, how do I graduate now? How do I, how do I function? Because at the time, I didn't realize it, but in my life, my sole purpose at that time was making my parents proud. And that meant getting a college degree, getting a good job, having a family, living the life that was expected of me, being quote unquote the responsible child of theirs. And so September of I'm sorry, excuse me. My dad went through chemo. Chemo did not work. My dad went through radiation. Radiation didn't work, and he got to a point where he was just tired. And we all knew. We all knew he was tired. You could see it in his eyes that he was tired. And the day before he passed, I went home and held his hand, looked him in his eyes, and I told him I loved him. And I knew he was tired. And he looked at me. He nodded, because at the time he had been mute for about 2 weeks. He nodded, and we agreed, and he passed that next morning. So September came. That's when he passed. And I sat still for a good 2 hours after I found out. And my mind, obviously, in that moment was, okay, my dad is gone. What do I do now? Do I need to be there for my mom? Do I need to be there for my brother? Do I need to be there for my aunts, my uncles? Like, where do I fall into place here? Like, where do I need to go at this point in my life? And in that moment, it was just like, okay, go take care of everybody. Go make sure everybody is good, like taken care of, and then we'll figure out you later. Big mistake, guys. Big mistake. So I went and took care of everybody, helped my mom with the funeral, made the programs, got everything together. And I went to my dad's funeral, and me being the person I am, I went to work the very next day. Like, I didn't stop my life. I didn't pause. I didn't take a breath. I didn't sit back, like nothing. I went to work the next day. Like, it was just normal. And with doing that, I fell into a place that I never knew if I was going to get out of. So from September, let's fast forward a little bit to December of 2015. I fell into a hard depression, guys. A hard depression. My hair started falling out. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I stopped going to my classes. I was calling into work. Like, I could barely get out of the bed. And I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what was happening, why I felt the way I felt, why I was doing those things. I just knew I couldn't. I was literally at the point to where I just couldn't. I couldn't do anything. And my husband, he being a trooper, being the amazing guy he is, he stood by my side the whole time and was just like, when you're ready to get up, we're going to get up. Like, that's it. He was like, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to be here for you. But when you're ready to get up, you'll get up. And January, we all make New Year's resolutions. Yes, New Year's resolutions. My New Year resolution to myself was to stop fearing the uncontrollables. After my dad passed, I realized that I couldn't control him being healthy. I couldn't control how my mom felt after he passed. I couldn't control how my family felt after he passed. And obviously, I wasn't able to control what I thought I could control in my life. And so I was like, as long as I continue to fear the uncontrollable things, I'm always going to live in this depression. So instead of trying to figure out how to live and be in those moments, I was scared. I was terrified of what would happen next. Because the moment that I felt like I wasn't doing right or I wasn't doing things okay is when my dad got sick. So it was just like, oh, okay, well, maybe I was ungrateful. Maybe I just didn't appreciate things that were going on. And that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all. Um, so I had to make that promise to myself in January that I would no longer fear the uncontrollable things, but I would do my best to overcome them as they presented themselves. I would never try to plan ahead of time anymore, because again, it's uncontrollable. It is nothing that I can do about it. There's nothing that um, I can see happening before it happens. It's just when it presented itself, I knew that I would take it head on, and do the best that I possibly could do in that moment. So, with that being said, I've come to a point, let's see, 2017, if no mistake. So, it took me about 2 years. It took me about 2 years to come to a point of understanding that I had been living my life to make sure everyone else seen me as perfect. Everyone else seen me as having my life together, um, being a child of my parents that had it all right. I took pride in that for so many years of my life. So many years. I took pride in knowing that my parents could go out and be like, oh, Kayla is doing this and Kayla is doing that. Like, she's got it, she's got it all together. And the moment I realized that I didn't have it all together was the moment I actually started living my life again. I not fearing the uncontrollables. Not, bear with me, guys. Not fearing the uncontrollables. Um, so I took a long look in the mirror that year and was just like, you have to get it together at this point. You have to start living life for yourself. You have to make sure that your happiness is the most important thing to you. And the people around you, if they truly care about you and they truly love you, then your happiness is going to be the most important thing to them as well. And that was a ouch moment. That was a kick myself in the behind moment. Like, all these years you've spent this time trying to be something that you weren't. You put on a great show for people, because people around you thought that it was all gravy. Everybody thought you were okay. Everybody thought you had it together. Nobody knew you went through a depression. Nobody knew that you were hurting. Nobody knew, that you were beating yourself up, for everything that was going on in your life, in your family's life. Like, you were in a dark place and no one knew because you continued to smile. You continued, to be there for people. You continued to be happy, to the world. And that wasn't it. That wasn't it. But that day I decided that I was good enough. That day I decided that I am the best me that I can possibly be at this point in my life. And when I realized that, it was like a shift. It was like a shift in my life. It was a deep breath. It was a moment of, okay, now that you understand that you're not in control, don't be afraid of not being in control. What are we going to do next? Like, are we going to take one step forward, or are we going to stay complacent as far as where we are right now? That was the ultimate question. Um, and I had to have an answer, because at the end of the day, I was, married, um, in my career, like living my life. So I had to make a choice. It's either stay where I am and be like, okay, yeah, I've had this revelation, but I'm okay with where I am right now, or take the next step forward. Um, and that's, reaching out to other people, talking, to family members about what happened, about what you went through, about what was going on. I know a lot of the time I I was afraid of what people would think if I told them what I was truly going through and what I truly felt. And that's never okay. It's never okay not to speak about those things. It's never okay not to feel. Um, it should be, we should always find a safe space in someone or something, whether that be you going in a closet and being able to scream, or you having a spouse or a friend that you can just sit down and be your genuine self with. There needs to always be a place in our life where we can be the most vulnerable and not be judged, because there's always going to come a time in your life where, I don't want to say you're going to fail, but you might fall. And when you fall, it might be real hard. You may hit that ground like you've never hit it before. But always know that if you have the right people in your corner, they'll be there to pick you up. They'll be there to dust you off. They'll be there to support you. They'll be there through thick and thin. And that's fearless, guys. Like, fearless. Like, in the moments I am at in my life right now, I am at a point where fear is not acceptable. I don't allow myself to fear anymore, because at the end of the day, either I'm going to be really good at it or I am just going to stink. And that is it. That is it. So, in this podcast, guys, this is where we're going. This is where it's going to be. Um, Again, I'm going to be as raw and as vulnerable as I possibly can for you guys. Um, if y'all have questions, let me know. If y'all want to talk about something, let me know. But at the end of the day, I just want everyone to know that we can fear less together. And as a fearless woman, I love you guys. And I will see you next week.